I'm Stuart Roger. I lead the health practice at Deloitte Actuaries and a member of the Health Practice Committee. And my colleague here.
I'm Jamie Reid. I lead Affinity's health practice and I'm also a member of the Health Practice Committee.
So we're going to start with a little bit of what's been going on in the industry across the year. And Jamie, there's been a fair bit about product design and regulations around gold, silver, bronze. What's your take on that?
Well, the aim is to make it easier for consumers to choose the right health insurance product for them. Very hard to argue against that in principle. Of course, the devil's in the detail and all the work is underway there about how you define these products exactly.
Yes, underway and yet to be completed, but plenty of ministerial statements over the last year about it. And in a similar category, ministerial statements about prostheses costs and the savings to those. A big headline of $80 million a year saving thanks to government negotiations. Although I must say, I think $80 million in the context of $2 billion plus premiums is not really very much, is it?
Yeah, 20 billion, that's right. So it's a tiny amount, but it is better than nothing. It's more we've had in previous years. The industry method of focusing just on one area and getting reforms in that area seems to be successful. Hopefully the blueprint for more savings to come on prosthesis and in other areas.
Yes, that's right. And of course you're right, 20 billion. The industry had some lower claims inflation during the year just gone by. Any thoughts about that?
Yes, so it seems to be widespread. Everybody has done pretty well, better than expected in general. Hard to know what the reasons are. There's lots of theories, but I think it's unknown and unknowable at this stage. But certainly very welcome as we come into the pricing round. Hopefully marginally lower price increases this time around. Yeah,
my feeling is it's not the beginning of a trend. It's within the reasonable range of variability for a year's outcome, but it has helped to keep the premiums lower. But that's really important too, because the other issue that is front and centre in the press is affordability and how people can keep paying these increased premiums that seem to keep coming around. I've got a view on that, which is we are going to spend more on health and the government isn't going to be able to keep up. So somehow or other it's got to come out of private sector and people's pockets. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, no one likes paying insurance premiums and you know, these are big premiums, but ultimately the premiums reflect the cost of claims. Health costs are increasing. Health insurance only pays a small proportion. I think we need to move the debate on health costs beyond just saying health insurance premiums are too high to looking at costs across the sector, including the 90% health insurers don't pay for. And sure, we're going to look for efficiencies there, but the cost will increase over time.
Yeah, the balance between needs for good health and point of sale affordability, which is a serious issue for each family when they come to look at it. That's an issue that definitely needs attention.
And I guess looking inside the industry, the industry participants have changed over the year.
They have, haven't they? Yes, yes. Transport Health was sold, ended up now as a proper transport health insurer.
And I think we'll see more new entrants over time. What you were saying about health as a growing area, Australia and other countries spending more on their health and an important role for the private sector, I think you will see new participants continuing to come into our industry, both from overseas and from other industries in Australia.
Yeah. That's, a few years ago I would challenge industry seminars. What kind of industry is this where there's been no new entrant for 2 decades? Well, that's gone now. We've had several new entrants, startups, over the last few years, and it's a live industry. Yeah.
And as in any industry, there's both the developments you can see and expect, and perhaps also the potential for the unexpected and some sort of disruption at some point.
Yeah, digital disruption, for example. Yeah. Everyone asks me about Fitbits and health insurance, and in fact, I'm wearing my Fitbit now. There's no yet evidence for a business case that this kind of thing makes people's health better. But I reckon there's a couple of positive things about it. One is, in the end, one of the things to keeping people's, the society's health costs down is people taking individual responsibility for their own health, doing the sensible things. And it may not be these, but the whole digital world is an empowering of people to take more control of their lives. So I reckon we'll get more in the area of personal responsibility out of the digital revolution. And of course, business models coming from one end of the consumer and their habits to the other end, the way the business works. Plenty of scope for a Uber to appear in health. What it'll look like, we'll know once they appear, as happened with the taxis. You asked me about the disruption. There's a few thoughts. What have you got on that?
Well, I guess it's important to separate innovation from disruption. So all the health insurers that I'm aware of are innovating in the digital space and doing more and more there, including the Fitbits, of course. Is there a big disruptor out there? Lots of reasons to think that maybe we're not an obvious industry for disruption, but if you weren't watching for it and if you weren't thinking about what it might be, then I think you missed a trick.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few things that have been happening in the industry over the last year. On the regulatory front, there's been change and APRA has taken control. Tell us about that.
Well, that's right. So APRA has announced it will be reviewing all the PHI prudential standards over the next 3 or so years, and they've set out a sequence of reviews. First up is risk management. That review will be getting underway this year. Coming up next year is governance. That's next down the track. Capital and solvency standards, not until after that, so that's depending on how the others go, of course. That's 2018 or 2019. You would imagine there would be consultation for each, a transition phase perhaps. So when will the new capital standards be in place? Maybe even 2020. Of course, a rigorous review around each and lots of consultation, so watch this space.